Hello everyone. I'm happy to be here with you, even though I cannot see you. My name is Yair Tauman, and I'm going to be your lecturer, and I try my best to make it as clear as possible. So the course is Intermediate Microeconomics, and we are using actually PowerPoint made by Alvarian, who wrote the book Intermediate Microeconomics, and everything based on this book. What is microeconomics? Micro, as opposed to macro, is small. And the idea is to look carefully on every detail of the economy. The economy typically has a lot of players. You and me and others as consumers, firms that produce goods and using input outputs, and government that may tax or not, or regulation, a lot of players in the economy. We are going to focus on each one of us, or each one of the players, and then try to aggregate them. Once everything is aggregated, you move to macroeconomics. So we're not going to talk about inflation or interest rate, etc. These are on the macro level. How much the entire economy saves, the saving amount of the economy. No. We are going to focus on the individuals, on every one of us as potential consumer, on every company or firm that produces, on actions that governments are taking, and we try to combine all of it to see the entire picture of the economy. So, but I have to say that what really drives, or what is the engine of the economy, and whatever drives the economy is actually the price system. And before I continue, I want you to just watch the following video. Enjoy.
The basic principles underlying the free market, as Adam Smith taught them to his students in this university, are really very simple.
Look at this lead pencil. There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. To cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen with the help of the British government. This brass ferrule, I haven't the slightest idea where it came from, or the yellow paint, or the paint that made the black lines, or the glue that holds it together. Literally thousands of people cooperated to make this pencil. People who don't speak the same language, who practice different religions, who might hate one another if they ever met. When you go down to the store and buy this pencil, you are in effect trading a few minutes of your time for a few seconds of the time of all those thousands of people. What brought them together and induced them to cooperate to make this pencil? There was no commissar sending out orders from some central office. It was the magic of the price system, the impersonal operation of prices, that brought them together and got them to cooperate to make this pencil so that you could have it for a trifling sum. That is why the operation of the free market is so essential, not only to promote productive efficiency, but even more to foster harmony and peace among the peoples of the world.
So I hope you enjoyed the very short video by Professor Milton Friedman. It's amazing, if you ask me, it's really amazing how one pencil requires the cooperation of all parts of the world. Whether it is the wood, the lead, the rubber, the eraser, whatever, to combine one pencil, it would be probably impossible if price system were not there. So it should be somebody that, a commissar or someone, central planner that plans from the entire world and tell everyone what to do. This is impossible to do. Just think that just price system make all the world to cooperate with each other, whether we have the same culture as Milton Friedman said, or whether we hate each other or like each other, we cooperate with each other and to create values for our benefit. Just what really drives everything is the price system. If I need to find out what is my best consumption, then obviously I will look on the prices of every good, and then I'll make, given my income, I'll make my decision how much I'm going to consume from each one of the possible goods that are available for me. Some of them I will not be able to afford, but those that I can afford. And firms will look on the prices of inputs, because when they take in, they should use input to produce an output. So how much output to produce, that will depend on what will be the price of output in the market. But it also depends on the cost of production, which is determined by the price of the input that they use to produce the output. So without the price system, where the economy will be very degenerate. So in that case, let me start with the first chapter, and the first chapter of the course is actually economic modeling, chapter number 1. And so let's start. What causes what in economic systems? A question, another question. At what level of detail shall we model an economic phenomenon? Sometimes we don't need to go to all details to capture the essence of what drives the economy. Which variables are determined outside the model, exogenous, and which are to be determined by the model? Sometimes I may take my income as fixed, but given the price, how prices changes and how it affects my consumption, optimal consumption level. So sometimes I'll use some variable fixed, and I'll try to find the other ones endogenously, and sometimes most variables will be exogenous, but most of the time I would say that most parameters or variables will be exogenously given. So now for this chapter, let us move to a very specific example. And modeling the apartment market. So how are apartment rents determined? Okay, how you determine the rent of an apartment? Suppose here 3 things. Apartments are close or distant. So maybe close to your center of life or to your workplace, or far away. But otherwise, I'm assuming they are completely identical. It doesn't matter, they look the same, but one is in one location, far away, the other one is closer to my center of life. Distant apartments rents are exogenous and known. So there is a competitive market for distant apartments, and we know, let's say the rent there is $300 per month, and this is fixed, we know we don't touch it. Many potential renters and landlords, so the market is quite competitive when we have many of them each one of the renters or the landlords cannot affect the price. They are price takers, what we call, and they are too small to affect the price, but all of a sudden the price will emerge in this market in equilibrium. We'll see it in a second. Who will rent closed apartment? At what price? So the closed apartment is our main issue. As I will say, distant apartment, the price is fixed and there's not too much to say about it. At what price we rent a closed apartment? Will the allocation of apartments be desirable in any sense? Namely, are we going to allocate it in an efficient way or inefficient way? We'll touch on that. How can we construct an insightful model to answer this question? So let me start. So first, assumptions about the model. Two basic assumptions. Rational choice, very trivial I would say. Each person tries to choose the best alternative available to him or her. I want to emphasize the available. I mean, I can have my best alternative, maybe very fancy, but I cannot afford it. Okay? So the question first, what are the available choices to me? And once I know what are all the available choices, how to figure out what is the best one? And next, equilibrium. Market price adjusts until quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. On that topic, you're actually in your Eco 108, I'm sure you talked quite a bit about that, but let me say the following. So we assume that market prices are flexible enough and they changes in such a way that eventually supply equals demand. So market prices adjust until quantity demanded at the price equals quantity supplied at the price. Sometimes, like in this example, the supply will be fixed. Sometimes the supply will be functional, will change with prices. So demand. Suppose any one person is willing to pay to rent a closed apartment is $500 a month. So let's say one person, or maybe few persons, but here we say one, that is willing to pay $500 per month for a closed apartment. So if the price is $500, you can find only one person that is willing to rent one apartment. Suppose the price has to drop to attract another one, the second one, it has to drop to $490 or below to attract a second person. Okay, so in case the price goes down to $490, clearly this guy will be happy to rent an apartment because he is willing to pay even more. But at the price $490, you'll have two. The second guy and the first guy, both of them will rent apartments. So you get, the demand will be two. The lower is the rental price. When you go down and down, the larger is the quantity of closed apartment demanded. Namely, once you start reducing the price, more and more people will jump and will find it attractive for them because it will start being less than what they are, less or equal to what they are willing to pay. And therefore, when price goes down, the quantity demanded is going up. The quantity demanded versus price graph is the market demand curve for the product we are talking about. The product that we are dealing here is closed apartments. So here it is. This is the price, this is the quantity, and as you can see, and typically, unlike mathematicians that look on X and looks what is the Y, here it's more convenient to what to do is to look on a price and to say how much, that much, what is the quantity that people would like to buy at this price. At this price below, the quantity is higher. At this price, even higher. So the demand curve is downward sloping, and just asserts that the lower is the price, the higher is the quantity. It's a decreasing function. Now let's talk, so we talked a little bit about the demand, and now let's talk about the supply. So sometimes depends on the price that I can get in the market. If I can get very high price, I will build more apartments. But here, we just for simplicity, we make a very simplifying assumption. It takes time to build more closed apartments, so in this short run, the quantity available is fixed at, say, 100. So there are 100 closed apartments, and this is fixed, you cannot change it. In the short term, maybe in the long run, depending on the price, that it would be able to get, I mean, as a rental, they may build more. And also, if the demand starts going up, they may build more. But for the time being, the supply is fixed at 100. So this looks like a vertical line. Okay, what does it mean? Look again from the P. So at this price, what is the maximum amount that you can get? 100. At this price, 100. At this price, 100. So the supply is for every price, how much you can, what is the total supply at each price? If you remember your previous courses, typically a supply function looks like this, increasing. What does it mean? The higher the price that the producer or the builder can get, the more you will build. So it will be an increasing function. Here, we're talking about the short run. There are 100, so it's fixed for any price. Low rental price, if that will happen, that the rental price will be low, then the arrow says then quantity demanded of closed apartment exceeds quantity available. What does it mean? And price should rise. Suppose that the rental price is so low that actually the demand is more than 100. The demand is 120, let's say. So what will happen? There's only 100. So because of competition, this price will start rising, and therefore once the price starts rising, the demand start going down. Suppose for a second that the rental price is high, so that it would be impossible to rent all the 100 apartments. So the quantity demanded will be less than the quantity available, and therefore, so it's excess supply. Okay, we need only 80, but we have 100. What will happen? The landlord will start reducing the rent so the price will fall. So we are talking about the quantity demanded in equilibrium. The quantity demanded equals quantity available, and under these circumstances, price will neither rise nor fall. If the demand equals supply, there's no reason for the price to rise, because then you'll get vacancies, you will not be able to rent everything, and there's no reason for the price to fall, because in that case the demand will be more than 100, more than available. So in equilibrium, market clears. Demand equal supply. So here is our demand, here is our supply, and at what price demand equals supply, this is at this intersection point, it will be this price. So I call it PE, okay? The equilibrium price is this one, whatever it is. And all the 100 units, apartments, this price. So this is the market equilibrium. Again, supply equals demand and at this price. So people willing to pay PE or more for closed apartment, get closed apartment. Look, the willingness to pay for the first apartment, let's say this is 1, for the first apartment is that much. You can do it on the whiteboard. So let's say that this is 1, okay? And this is actually the willingness to pay of that consumer, the highest willingness to pay of a consumer. Okay, that much. It is above PE. So for sure he would like to buy, and he will get it. Because who gets it? Everyone. The price is PE. Who pays the price PE? Those that value the apartment for a higher price or equal. The second one is here. He is willing to pay is, let's say this is the second, is this much, more than PE. The third one is willing to pay that much, still more than PE, that much, more than PE, etc., etc. The last one, the one that buys a rent, apartment number 100, is just willing to pay 2 PE. Let's say that you are here 101, even though we don't have 101 apartment, but this person have a willingness to pay below PE, and therefore he's not going to, he or she are not going to be able to purchase or to rent a closed apartment. So if we look here on that part of the demand, people willing to pay PE for closed apartment, get closed apartment. All these people are ready to pay PE. They are actually ready to pay more. A person here is willing to pay that much. The second one willing to pay that much. A third one is willing to pay that much, etc., etc., etc. All of them, so all these the people that buy are willing to pay at least PE, typically more. What happened to those? People not willing to pay PE for closed apartments, and they get distant apartments. They have to live somewhere. So this, for instance, that person that willing to pay that much, okay, is below the PE, will not be able to buy. Who rents the closed apartments? Those most willing to pay. By the way, later on, I'll argue that this is a very efficient one, that one that is willing to pay more, get it before one that willing to pay less. So those most willing to pay. Who rents the distant apartments? Those least willing to pay. So the competitive market allocation is by willingness to pay. If you are willing to pay more than PE or equal, you get it. If you are willing to pay less than PE, you don't get it. The closed apartment. Okay. So everything is, you have to remember this is an important issue of willingness to pay. So I'm talking about apartment number 1, the willingness to pay of a consumer. One consumer, or maybe more, is this much. That's the highest. For apartment 2 is this much. And as you can see, all of them are above the PE. Above, until it's equal. Those that if, by the way, there will be all of a sudden, instead of 100, 110, more will come and the price will go down. But meanwhile, the willingness to pay for apartment number 101, the next consumer's willingness to pay is that much, 101, that much,